Hello once again, and welcome to another edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. I'm joined today by the Chief Agricultural Editor for SaskAgToday.com, Kevin Hursh, and the 620 CKRM Regina Agri-News Director, Ryan Young. I'm your host, GX94 Yorkton Agriculture Director, Doug Falconer, and of course it's Friday, and the first thing, of course, is the big news that Ryan just found out regarding Viterra and their dispute with their union. What's the latest on that, Ryan?
Yeah, it's literally fresh off the presses. Breaking news as of this recording that the Grain Services Union, Locals 1 and 2, which represent 436 Viterra employees, they voted in favor of Viterra's deal to avoid a strike. Looking at the news release, just with the immediate details, they don't go into like percentage of who is in favor or not, but regardless, they ratified the votes. So next steps would be to incorporate this new deal into the new collective bargaining agreement. However, Steve Torgerson, the general secretary for the union, noted in the release that even though the employees voted in favor of the deal, rather, they said that it doesn't show overwhelming support. He said that the deal doesn't go far enough for what they wanted, and what they wanted in the negotiations, which happened for over a year, was better wages. That's always a hot issue when it comes to any sort of bargaining issues, but also to work-life balance and more respect in the workplace. I heard from Mr. Torgensen before talking about how employees, their work-life balance was all out of whack and their schedules get changed at a literal last-minute notice and so on. So those are kind of the immediate details right now. They, again, voted in favor of this deal. Viterra, with their offer, I guess, and from that side, a 4-year deal. They also offered a wage increase spread out over 4 years of 13.25%, which is going to be broken down over the course of the 4 years. So good news for farmers who have a contract with Viterra. They don't have to worry about job action or anything like that. So that's some good news.
Your reaction to this news, Kevin?
It's good to, whenever there isn't a disruption, it's always good news. I think Viterra might be the only major grain handler that's actually got a unionized workforce. And I think workforces in all of the other companies face the same issues when there's very short notice when a train arrives and they only have 12 hours to load it, even though it might sit there 2 or 3 days after that and not move in order to get the incentive rates. They have to load it immediately. So I think that's an ongoing issue in the grain industry, is that there's sometimes very short notice when unit cars, trains are going to arrive, or it's not, sometimes it's scheduled for a Tuesday and then ends up arriving on a Friday afternoon. So I think that's an issue for all of the grain companies.
All right, and of course, Kevin, you went to Manitoba Ag Days in Brandon this week, and sounds like it was quite the experience.
It was great. I hadn't been there for quite some time, and it is absolutely huge. People that go to crop production show in Saskatoon might think, oh, that's a pretty big space, but Manitoba's is quite a bit larger, 550 exhibitors versus 330, and two active speaker programs that go nonstop. So crowds, particularly in the first 2 days, were very heavy. I thought very well attended. The only downside to this show is accommodations, because Brandon isn't a big as big a city as a place like Saskatoon, and for the massive people that show up there, hotel accommodations really are at a premium, and some people end up staying quite a ways away if they're going to have to overnight in Brandon.
Anything that you took out of it that was quite of interest to you?
I always thoroughly enjoy different presentations and panel presentations, a lot of stuff on variable rate. I enjoyed the presentation from Noah Bishop of ADM Fertilizer on where fertilizer prices might be going. Still have an interview in the can that I'll cut up for you guys for next week. And just being able to visit with people and get an idea of what's going on. It was interesting. One of the things that is crop insurance information for Manitoba is always announced at Manitoba Ag Days, and Manitoba Agriculture Minister Ron Kostishin was there and announced the program, but didn't say a whole lot about it other than the premium per acre was going to average $6.21 an acre rather than $19.21 an acre, and that while some crop insurance prices had gone up on a few small commodities, most were down. The actual crop prices for crop insurance weren't released right away, but were available a little later in the week. And one thing I was surprised at was that their canola value was pretty good compared to where prices are right now, $16.44 a bushel. Now, if you're in Saskatchewan waiting for crop insurance information near the end of February, which when it comes out in Saskatchewan, I think our canola value might be quite a bit lower here because Manitoba uses a December estimate of what canola prices are going to be. Saskatchewan uses a January estimate, and with canola over the last time frame continuing to slump, I think we could end up quite a bit lower than Manitoba's 16.44. Last year, Saskatchewan was below $19 a bushel for a crop insurance price. Manitoba was above, but they were within spitting distance of each other. This year, I'm thinking there could be $1 or maybe even $2 a difference between the crop insurance price in Manitoba versus Saskatchewan.
Quite interesting. And did you find that there were actually some speakers and exhibitors that you saw in Saskatoon that you saw in Brandon?
For sure. You see many of the same ones or many of the same companies, but sometimes it's their Eastern Prairie staff versus the Western Prairie staff. But for instance, Croptomistic with SWOT maps, again, you see those, you see SWOT maps talked about in many of the booths, but certainly many of the exhibitors and many of the companies were there. But some different grain companies, some different commodities in Manitoba that you won't see in Saskatchewan as well. So you can walk for miles and get lost multiple times looking at all the booths at Manitoba Ag Days. I did that.
And you had a chance to talk with a man known as Andy Clean on social media. I'm sure that conversation was a pretty fun one.
He's just one of those fun guys, and I'd heard the story before about Andy Clean and how he got a line of soap for equipment washing because of his tweets on Twitter, where he would show his very clean equipment, and somebody tagged him as hashtag Andy Clean. From that, he ended up with his own brand of soap, and John Deere caught on to the discussion and actually markets the soap or has the soap available for him. He's from Tillsonburg, Ontario. First time he'd been out west of Manitoba, and just one of those very interesting, very forthcoming guys, and a fun interview with him.
And Ryan, it sounds like the Western Canadian Wheat Growers Association might be having a convention next week. It sounds like it's in Regina, so that'll probably be something you'll be looking forward to next week.
Yeah, absolutely. It's on the 25th and 26th for the 2 days. And I spoke with Carly Bowditch late last year at the time, just to follow up with how she was doing with the experience with the Wheat Growers Young Farmers Mentorship Program, being one of the very first people chosen in the program. And she mentioned during that time, too, that she's going to be at the Wheat Growers Convention. She's really looking forward to that. Meeting with the rest of the Wheat Growers organization and just trying to be a sponge, basically, in terms of, digesting as much information as possible and really learning the process behind all of the agricultural policy making. So she's really excited and is looking forward to continuing her journey in the program.
Now, Kevin, we've none of us have actually been able to find an agenda yet for that meeting. Do you foresee anything interesting coming out of the Wheat Growers Convention?
I'm the same way. I think I saw an agenda way back when, but have to delve into that a little further. Some organizations, and I shouldn't blame the wheat growers on this, but we see from time to time that they operate in a bit of a vacuum. So here's a call out. If you want the media to know about your meeting and talk about your meeting and maybe attend your meeting and do interviews, let them know and keep pestering us about exactly what's going on. And I'm going to be pestering the Global Institute for Food Security in that regard, because they had a release and a news conference, and I think a lot of people didn't even know about it.
And I think one of the things, though, is probably the wheat growers is involved with that Show Your Receipts campaign. You've heard about that, right? Dave Carey talked a bit about it when you spoke with him this week in Brandon.
Yes, Dave Carey is with the Canadian Canola Growers Association, and he is a lobbyist in Ottawa. So it was very interesting to hear his take on what it takes to be a lobbyist, to be polite and to develop a relationship. Because if you want to meet with people, they have the ability to say no or not meet with you. So you want to be there, be polite, be insistent, and something that they've really pushed on, along with a large membership in the Carbon Alliance, farm groups from supply management all the way to Canola Growers Association on side, saying the same thing, that Bill 234 for exempting farmers from natural gas and propane GST, that this bill needs to move forward, and the shenanigans in the Senate haven't been helpful at all. So yeah, he's actually saying that there haven't been as many receipts in their "Show Me Your Receipts" campaign from the prairies as they would have hoped for. And I think part of that is because grain drying season is well past. But there's a call from all of those organizations to producers saying, send in your receipts, show the government that the carbon tax on propane and natural gas is costing you a lot of money. Because a lot of the claims, especially from senators, was that, oh no, 97% of the carbon tax on agriculture has been removed. This is a very minor thing. Well, for a lot of producers, if you're heating a greenhouse or heating a barn, or if you're drying a lot of grain, it's not a minor thing. And that's why the Show Your Receipts program was implemented.
And just kind of add to that too, John Barlow, the Tory ag critic, spoke on Bill 234 this week, and just talking about it in advance of the MPs and senators being back in Ottawa later this month, I believe on the 29th, if my memory serves me well, just to kind of get the conversation going again following the holidays. And he admitted that it's going to take some persistence and it's going to take some time to get the bill not only into debate, but hopefully for many farmers to get it back in its original form and up into the upper chamber again. So we'll see how that goes later this month and in the weeks ahead. But like Barlow said, it's going to take some time and persistence.
All right. Well, thanks very much for your comments, gentlemen. And that's going to do it for today's program. On behalf of 620 CKRM Regina Agri-News Director Ryan Young and SaskAgToday.com Chief Agricultural Editor Kevin Hursh, I'm GX94 Agriculture Director Doug Faulkner saying so long until next week.